My name is Mark Wohlschlegel, Mark W, WC3W, and I'll talk about a little bit of my history in a second. But I like to, over the last 18 months, I've done about 100 Zoom presentations to clubs, both in the U.S., primarily in the U.S., but also in Japan, in Australia, and a couple in Europe. And I really like to understand who my audience is because I can kind of tailor the presentation. I don't do the same presentation twice. So a couple questions. How many in this audience here have heard of the DX Marathon program? That is really good. How many have actually participated? That's good too. Okay. How many are contesters here? How many actually, I love it, okay? Because I'm going to talk about a couple things later in the presentation. We're going to introduce a little bit of a change, not a change, but a sweetener on the DX Marathon program. And I'm really targeting contesters because there are a huge number of contesters both in North America and around the world. Just look at the numbers on the CQ Worldwides and the ARRL. There's a lot of people in contesters, and unfortunately, I don't know the exact number, but I think not too many of them are actually DX Marathon participants. But I'm going to show you people who are contesters how easy it is incrementally to participate in this program and still do your contest. And anything you work in a contest would apply to our program. Why participate? I'm going to show you 3 slides in the middle of my presentation. And at the end, when I do the Q&A, I want you to raise your hand. And if I didn't touch you in terms of your interests or your station parameters, I want you to tell me. Because if you've got a radio and you got a license and you work DX, you should be in this program. Okay? And I'm going to try to explain why. I participated in the marathon for about 7 years before I took over this position 3 years ago. I retired 7 years ago. The reason I participated in the program was I was a big contester. I'm a very competitive person. I love contesting. I still participate in contests. But when I retired, I pledged to myself, I was an executive vice president for a large company, and I promised myself that I had to bring some balance and serenity into my life. And sitting at a desk for 48 consecutive hours over a weekend doesn't get that job done for me, at least for me personally. So the reason I got into the marathon program was because I once worked for a guy, and I've never forgot this. This was like 50 years ago. He said, if something is not measurable, it's not worth doing. Now, I don't know if you all agree with that, but I'm an engineer by degree, and I like metrics. I love this program because we do a huge amount of analysis on the results of the program. If you're doing DX, many people in our program do it because they want a self-assessment tool on how they're doing in working DX year over year. That's fine. If you don't like the competition, we have hundreds in our program that do it just for that reason. Then on the flip side, we also have some real competitive dogs out there, and they're going for the gold. I mean, really, just as competitive as a contest. I call this a program because it's really not a contest, but if you are the competitive type, you have a place in this program as well. Okay. Real briefly, I've been in this wonderful hobby for 62 years, 12 years old. You can figure out my age. I got in 12 years old in grade school. I was dating this real nice little gal, and she invited me over to her house. I born and grew up in Peoria, Illinois, flyover country, and her father worked for Caterpillar Tractor Company. He was a mechanical engineer. And when I was over there, he said, Mark, come downstairs, and I want to show you some equipment, So I went downstairs. He had Collins S-line, flipped it on, got on the radios and started working DX. And I just hook, line, and sinker. I said, I got to do this. I love math, I love science, and I saw that, and I said, I got to do it. Not only did it set me forward on this wonderful hobby, but it also pretty much set me forward on getting into electrical engineering, which I wanted to do, and I did in college. So anyway, I do a lot of things. I've flown airplanes for 50 years. I've made 8 trips on BMW motorcycles in the Alps. I love riding motorcycles. I've done it since I've rode a motorcycle up here from Florida. I live in Florida now. I'm a musician. I'm a keyboard player. I play in a jazz group. I play in a rock group, and I'm the head of our church contemporary worship group. But having said all, and I'm a sailor too, but having said all that, I can represent to you that a lot of those hobbies have come and gone in my lifetime, save one, and that's this hobby here. I've never strayed from ham radio for 62 years. I've been involved in it from 12 years old on, and it's a wonderful, wonderful hobby. Okay, enough about me. Let me give you just a real brief history of the marathon program. I'm going to make this short because many of you know what it is, but it actually has been around a long time. It was founded by Radio Magazine, which was CQ Magazine's predecessor, okay, in 1939. It ran for 1 year. World War II came along, and they dropped it for 8 years. They brought it out, and concurrently, a bunch of programs in ham radio came out, CQ Worldwide, DXCC, and it just kind of died until this man, Bob Loker, W9KNI, approached CQ Magazine. He said, I really like that program. Can we resurrect it? And they said, have at it, Bob. And so Bob took the pen and put the rules back together, presented it, and they said, okay, let's do it. Well, Bob, being a very smart guy, said, you know, this is going to take a lot of work to administer this. So he recruited, I call him my hero, my predecessor, who was John Sweeney, K9EL. And John administered the program single-handedly for 17 consecutive years. Incredible. I knew John through a mutual friend of mine down in South Florida who co-founded the Northern Illinois DX Association. John lives in Chicago. And I had been introduced to John through Dayton, through Visalia, Orlando. And I got to know John. He's an amazing guy and a phenomenal DXer. And I got an email 3 years ago saying, I need to find a replacement. I'm burnt out after 17 years. And I called him up. I said, you know, I retired, John. Tell me what this is all about. Well, he talked for about 5 minutes. And I said, wait, time out, John. This sounds like a full-time job. And he says it is. And I explained to him, I'm retired. I don't want a full-time job. I want to put serenity into my life. I don't think I can do this. So we hung up, and I got to thinking about it when I was involved in my business activities. I created a number of companies, and we bought a few companies, and I said, you know, you'd really do things through people. So I called John back, and I said, hey, what do you think of the idea of taking all those tasks and responsibilities that you did on this program, and we segment them, we write job descriptions, and we go out and we recruit volunteers? He said, I think that would work. So we sat down and did job descriptions, and we went out, and he had a real good network within our program. And we went out, and me being from the industry side of things, I said, we got to put some formality into that. So I formed an LLC, and I recruited some very experienced DXers who had been a part of this program, created a board of directors, then the challenge was to find the people to really make the program go. This is the work, this is the engine of our program. These are the people that are doing what John did single-handedly. And as you can see, I've got about 5 people. I've got a scoring manager, Larry Lone, who's a retired IBM guy. Al Robner is sitting in our audience here. He is helping Larry out, and our QC manager. Sebastian, KI2D, is our genius IT manager. And I have a communications manager who happens to be my remote station partner down in Florida. And then 81C, many of you have heard of Jim Reisert. He does the country database, probably the most accurate database for DXing in the world. And that's who does the work these days. I'm going to recognize Sebastian. Sebastian just got a very prestigious award. He has developed on your iPhone or your Google device, Android, a software package for people particularly focused on POTA. It allows you to do a lot of logging. It's a phenomenal program, but I'm sure if you have a chance, talk to him. But Sebastian is, he's the heart and soul of our program. He completely redesigned our web page. He created a submission tool, which I'll talk about in a little bit, that is phenomenal. And one of the things you're going to hear me say about our program, it's easy, it's simple, it's simple. And he even made it more simple in terms of how you get your DX queues into our system. It's can be done in a couple minutes. It's so simple. If you know how to produce an ADIF file, you can submit, okay? All righty. What is the DX Marathon? I'm going to get in and make this really simple because, again, many of you know what it's all about. First of all, right now, it's the fastest growing ham radio program in our hobby today. We've grown nearly 100% over the last couple of years. I have a vision to continue to grow it, and that's why I'm going to try to do some special things to get people introduced to the program. The problem we have in our hobby is there's so much out there right now that I think sometimes we get lost in the noise. There's so many contests out there. Go look at the calendar of events from January to December. I mean, every single weekend there's something going on the entire year, okay? So anyway, I've got a vision. My greatest challenge, and I'm just following up on what I just said, is getting the word out. Once people understand what this does, what it can do for you, and try it, they're hooked on it. They get hooked on it because it is a lot of fun. And I'll explain that. Okay. All right, what is it? Let's summarize it. From the 30,000 foot level, it's an annual DXCC WAZ chase. What does that mean? There's 340 DXCC entities, and what we do is we add 6 to that, the Worked All Europe, to make 346. Each one is a point. From January 1st to December 31st, each one you work on any band, and I'll go through that in a second, is 1 point, okay? And there's no multipliers, there's no confirmations, there's no LOTW confirmations, no club log. We trust you. It's an honesty program because we're really providing, we consider you guys our customers and our participants. We're providing you with a service or a tool that you can do some self-evaluation, or you can compete, whatever you want to do. It's an excellent excuse to get on the air, okay? As I said, and I'll say it a number of times, if you're the competitive type, we have competition, big time. But if you're like I was, I didn't want to be in a contest. That's why we call it a program. I wanted to just see how I was doing year to year, okay? And I can say for 7 consecutive years, each year I did better. And to me, that was gratifying in terms of the number of DXCC entities and zones I worked. That means I was spending a little more time on the air. I was improving my station parameters. I love CW. I was probably improving my CW skills. And most importantly, working DX is just not working a station and logging it. There's some verification that goes along with that. There's pirates out there. You got to log these calls accurately. I can't tell you, and I'll show you in a minute, how many broken calls we have because you're not taking care of how you log a contact. There's a lot of things going on to make a consummate DXer. So what we're trying to do is help people along, and the feedback we give back to you, everybody that participates gets an email after the program, and it shows you where you made mistakes. So each year, you can improve your practices in operating DX. No complicated rules. I'm going to show you our webpage. Go read the rules. It's very simple. And again, I said it was a year-long global event. That's what it is. Okay. Why would one participate? I don't know about you guys, and there's 750,000 hams in the U.S. and 3.5 million worldwide. I don't know what the percentage is, but I would say a lot of the percentage of ham radio operators are chasing DX. I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of them. So I like to equate ham radio with DXing. I know everybody is not in that platform. The DX Marathon, as I said, it challenges to work DX every year. It's simple, no multipliers like contests, no complicated formulas, no QSL cards. It provides a little bit of push. You can go on vacation for 3 weeks, come back and work DX. You got a whole year to work these entities, okay? This last one is, as I said, I've done over 100 Zoom presentations to clubs. Clubs, I've seen profiles of many clubs. A lot of clubs are dying. People just aren't coming. A lot of clubs are growing. And the difference I've observed as I interact with these clubs is club leadership needs to find ways to engage their membership. This program is a phenomenal tool that leaders can use to engage their membership, get actively involved. Every month, you can have everybody come back and report back to the club. How are we doing? Because we have club categories. I've expanded the club categories into large clubs, medium clubs, and small clubs. It's fun to get everybody pulling together and working DX. So the clubs that have done this, they've really been happy in doing it. So I've got a big push in supporting club activities. Okay, I mentioned most of this already, so I'm going to skip this slide. Okay, unlike contests, we include all work bands. Any authorized ham radio frequency from 6 meters to 160, including the work bands, are legal to operate. No contacts with repeaters or satellites are not allowed. Contacts with maritime mobile or aeronautical mobile are not allowed. You'll see from the next couple slides what we try to do is create level playing fields. So you got somebody that's flying around in an airplane or sailing a boat around, that's not a level playing field. They got a huge advantage. So they don't count. And of course, all contacts have to be made over ham radio frequencies that Echolink or DMR is forbidden. You can't do that. Okay, so you got the frequencies. All right, want you all to pay attention. These next 2 slides is the heart and soul of the whole program, okay? And here's where I want you to put yourself and slot yourself into this first category, and in the second slide, I'm going to show you what you like to do when you're operating your radios, okay? In terms of working DX. So what we're trying to do, and we're not perfect at this, we're trying to create tranches that create level playing fields so that when you submit your score as an unlimited, for example, unlimited being high power up to legal limit. You can have any antenna structure you have. I've got a 100-foot tower with a Navassa at the top and a JK 3040 and a quarter wave 80 meter, and we got everything out at our remote site. So there's no limits, okay? So you then will compare yourself in the program against like-minded people with those operating conditions. Then we go down to the next class, which is limited. No linears. Okay, 100 watt. We do allow some Yagis. I'm not going to go through the details with some restricted boom lengths and that kind of thing. That is called the limited, okay? Then we get into the formula, and I'm going to talk about the asterisk in a second. The formula class, if you do a bell-shaped curve, I would say the 2 sigma inside the bell-shaped curve, most hams in the world, the 3.5 million, are in that class because they're running barefoot, they're running 100 watts, and they're running a long wire antenna or a vertical. I think most hams are in that category. That category, that class last year grew 400% in our program. To verify what I just said, okay, there's a lot of people. And you combine cycle 25 with people with those constraints, and you throw in FT8, and these people can do what many of us have done our whole lives, and that is work DX. And what's wrong with that? There's a lot of fun in working DX, and what it's doing, the cycle 25, you know, and the FT8, like it or hate it, You know, I've got friends that absolutely wouldn't touch it. It's given those people some enjoyment in working DX, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And then, of course, God bless them, you got the QRP people. This is a growing class too, and you know, it's pretty phenomenal. Now, what I've done in 2025, the reason the asterisks are there, I listened to my customers, which is my participants. I've divided the formula into 2 tranches, because there are some people that operate long wires and verticals that have a linear amplifier. So I created a class. I had a sponsor come up, and I'll explain that in a second, and say, I want this second class, and I talked around, and so I put it in place. QRP, we had certain antenna restrictions. The president of one of the large QRP organizations in the U.S. said, I want an unlimited QRP class. If I put a stacked Yagi 200 feet up in the air, I want to be able to use that with 5 watts. He stepped up. He said, I'll be a sponsor, so I added that. So that's what the 2 asterisks are. Okay. Now, so everyone out there, you know where you belong. Now, let's talk about what you really like to do when you're working DX. You can be like me, as you probably imagine. I go for the gusto. I go for everything. All bands and all modes. CW, digital, and sideband. And I love 6 through 160. You can enter that way. Or you can be like my good friend who co-founded the Northern Illinois DX Association, W4QN, down in Jupiter, Florida. He wouldn't touch FT8 with a 10-foot pole, and he loves CW. You can enter in CW, which he did in 2019. He's got a beautiful station on the Loxahatchee River, and he finished #1 in the world with 319 points, okay? So if you love CW, and I was talking to Don, Long Island CW Club. I went to the CW Ops dinner. CW is my preferred mode. I don't compete in the contest because I run it, but I just love CW, and I would love to see the CW numbers grow within our program. So if you're a sideband guy, you can enter in sideband only. That's it. You enter only your sideband cues. Or if you're there's people that do exclusively digital, RIDI and FT8, you can enter in that class. And then again, you'll be scored against other people throughout the world. By the way, 2/3 of our participants are international, 1/3 are US. So we're an international program, okay? You can enter in that mode. And then lastly, if you really, really love a band, we got people, I know people that love 6 meters. Can't figure that one out either. It's like QRP for me. But we have people that love 60 meters. You can enter in a single band and then compare yourself against all the people in the world that have worked 60 meters or 6 meters or 30 meters or 80 meters and see how you're doing on that band. And you just need to declare that every year, and you can change the next year to something different. You're not locked into that. So again, and I talked about the club already, but again, it's what you like to do, okay? That is the heart and soul of the program. I mentioned the website. This is the one that Sebastian designed. It's not one of these websites that we don't update. I'm in this website every day. My compliance manager, K2CIB, he's updating this under the resources tab, which I have here. It's a little hard to see, but you can see we have country lists in here. We got zone lists. We got valid calls. We got invalid call signs. We've got bad spots. We got pirates. We update that literally every week, okay? So that if you work somebody and you don't know it was a pirate or not, you can go to this website, you can check it out, because we vet it out. We vet it out. And because in the end, your submission, when you submit to it, I'm going to talk about that next, when you submit to our program, you and you alone are responsible for what you are submitting. We don't do any checking of the integrity of the information that you have in your submittal. To be a consummate DXer, you need to make sure what you're putting in that log is accurate, that you're not representing that it's a pirate or it's a broken call. you need to check it, okay? Okay, let's talk about submission. I got one slide, really, a couple slides, but basically, anytime during the year, but before January 5th of 2026, everyone in this room is in the program for 2025. You are in the program right now. It doesn't cost you a thing. You don't have to register, okay? All you got to do is keep track of your DX in some logbook. Even if you got a paper log, we can take care of you too. I won't talk about how we do that, but we'll take care of you. But most people I use DX Labs. Some people use Ham Radio Deluxe. Some people use N1MM. There's about 10 or 12 or 13 out there. All you have to do from your log is generate anytime during the year, but on your final submission, an ADIF file, okay? Generate the whole, you don't even have to segregate out 2025. Your whole log, I got 40,000 in my log. Just dump an ADIF file. We'll take care of segmenting out your queues in 2025, okay? So now you save that ADIF file to your download. You go to our web page, which you're looking at here, to the submission page, Sebastian Design, and see where it says load ADIF. Or you can do an XLS spreadsheet also, but let's just talk about ADIF to make it simple. You load it. You click that button, and it'll say point to where you've got your ADIF. You point to your download file. You enter. You just made a submission. That's it. That's it. Okay? And you're going to get a beautiful report that he designed. And it's going to have 346 rows in it. It's going to tell which country entity out of the 346 that you worked. Even though you don't need confirmations, your ADIF file will tell you if you've got an LOTW confirmation. It'll tell you. So if you have multiple, like this top one, I worked the 3B7M. I actually worked him in 2023 12 times. You can go in there and you can select the one that you want to put on that line. And if I have a choice of picking a station that I got confirmation for or I don't, I'm going to pick the one I have confirmation for because I know it's dead. It's dead on. Okay? So you make those decisions as you go through your log before you submit. Okay? Similarly, we go through all 40 zones. It'll tell you the same thing. The same thing. And that's part of your submittal. But the neat part about this is you always have a running total of how you're doing, each time you submit. And there's other ways you can do that too. But it's a powerful tool. Okay, we have an honesty program. You don't need QSLs. You don't need LOTW Club Log. However, we do some checks, okay? And the reason we do checks, I'm going to make this real simple, and I'm not going to tell you how we do it. We got very creative people. We want to keep everybody coming back. 99% of our people, when they say they worked a queue, okay? And we trust them, okay? Less than 1% aren't so honest. We don't want to drive the honest people away because they know that there's cheaters in the program. So we call them out, and we find people that are misrepresenting. It's like pirates. Why are there pirates out there these days? You know, there's no rhyme or reason for it in our hobby. But we want people that legitimately, you can make a mistake. That's okay. And if we do ding a person, we don't throw you out of the program. You get a 1-point deduct. That's it. So if you got 300 and you make a mistake, or you're not in the log, or whatever, or you mistype something or whatever, you get 1-point deduct. That's it. Now that doesn't sound a lot to you, and most people it isn't. Okay. However, those people that are in the competitive hunt, many times in the unlimited class or the limited class, the separation between the top 10 people is like 3 points. So a 1-point deduct is huge for those competitive types, okay? That's the verification. Okay, we are basically self-funded. We're all volunteers. We do have on our website opportunities through PayPal where people, if they want to throw $5 in or $10 in, I don't want any of my staff people to have to reach into their own pocket to run the program. So if you're so inclined, go to the website, throw $5 in the PayPal, but that helps us develop a little working capital so that we can, pay for things like supplies and like these cards here that I distribute at Hamvention and Hamcation and that kind of thing. We do have incidental expenses, but our sponsors are really our fuel for the program. We issue about 30 wooden plaques each year, and most of our sponsors are clubs, but we have a lot of individuals. I have a good friend, W2CQ, that is hell-bent to get youth into our program, rightly so, because our hobby is going to die unless we get youth into our program. He says, Mark, I want to sponsor one of the youth categories. So he pulls out his checkbook, writes me a $100 check, and that pays for the plaque and the transportation. So a sponsorship, and I always take sponsorships because the more sponsors I get, the greater I can expand the program and create. We believe in rewards for effort expended. And I'm not going to go through all the categories on the plaques, but then we also this year I issued 130 certificates. The high score in every country in the world that achieved a certain level will get a certificate, okay? So that's basically our reward system. And having said that, I have a few. This year. A couple of years ago, I created a youth program. This is DL7PIA. She won for the second year in a row, a young German girl in the Black Forest area. She won number 1 youth in the world for 2 consecutive years. I have a YL category that I created a couple years ago. This is Ann, WA1S. She won it this year with over 300 points, okay? This is our EU winner. All 6 continent winners get plaques. This is Serge, R6YY. He won all EU. And down in Brazil, PY2XU, Fred won 6 meters this year. I should say last year. And then we have a 60 meter. As I said, every winner in the band award gets a plaque. Every continent gets a plaque. Every unlimited limited gets a plaque. This is HA5WA. And then this is what the certificates look like. This happens to be the high score for Lithuania. Every country entity gets a certificate, high score in every country entity. Okay. I'm going to set the mic down here for a second. Sergio, come on up on stage. Yes. Sergio is, one of the beautiful parts of this hobby. I used to travel a lot internationally, and when I visited different countries, I stopped and I looked up ham radio operators that I've worked. And the beautiful part of this hobby is we have a demographic profile in our hobby, which is spectacular. We have lawyers and doctors, and we've got firemen and policemen, and Sergio happens to be a cardiologist that operates on people. And he, in 2024, won the world high 80-meter plaque with 232 points. Give him a hand. And he's taking a plaque home, PY5EG, Atlano Ohms, who won the challenge class. And I haven't talked about that yet, but the Araucaria Club in Brazil is a huge, huge sponsor and supporter of the DX Marathon program. So thank you, Sergio. He's got an amazing station. And by the way, Sergio last year was inducted into the CQ Contest Hall of Fame as well. So we have some high rollers that participate in our contest or on our program as well. I got to mind my time here. So I'm going to say a few things about Cycle 25. Cycle 25 has been good for the program, but even when we go out of Cycle 25 and get into Cycle 26, it's a leveler in our program because everybody is participating in the same propagation. We won't have the scores quite as high, but but you'll still be able to do somewhat of an apples to apple comparison as how you're doing. All evidence. I was listened to a program presentation that Frank Donovan did, W3LPL. He, by the way, I'm going to pull him in June. He's going to do a Zoom presentation to many of our members. If you're interested, I'll have that out on our website and our group IO when that'll occur. But it's actually peaked. It's actually peaked in the summer of 24. We're down. We're starting to roll off at this point in time. That's one. He sent me his presentation, but you can see our SFIs now are pretty steadily below 200, where back in 24 they were as high as 250. Okay, but that's okay. It's going to be a slow roll off. And Frank says, at least on 10 meters, he said, as long as the SFI is 150 to 160, you're going to have great propagation on 10 meters. Okay, I got to move here. I'm going to skip here. I write every year, and it's on our website, a complete analysis of the 2024. I would encourage you, if you're interested, to look at that. And the average score, people always ask me, what's the average score? There's 360 possible, but all of the DXCCs are not activated every year, so many of those don't happen. Anything that approaches 300 is an excellent score. The average score in the whole program across all classes is 188, okay? And the U.S., North America has the highest participation level, and then we go down. South America is number 2, closing in. South America is very active in our program. Just to show you about propagation, these are the scores above 300. A score above 300 is phenomenal in this program. Look at what happened in 2023. Look at what happened in 2024. Look at what happened in 2022. In 23, we had almost 100 participants achieve 300 or above, and you can see it's starting to roll off. That's all cycle 25. 50% of our cues last year were made on 10. Out of the 350,000 cues were made on 10, 12, and 15 meters. That's propagation. That's cycle 25. Okay, I'm going to close here. I want people to try out the marathon, and I know sometimes a year-long commitment is kind of boggling, or you'll forget about it. So we're going to try something this fall. I had a vision, and I got everybody on my staff to agree to it. We're going to have a mini marathon in the fall, okay? 10 days. It'll only involve the 6 classes. Forget about the modes. Forget about all the stuff I talked about. Any mode you want to work, 10 days, and we're going to surround it around the CQ Worldwide SSB contest, which occurs on October 25th and 26th. So there's going to be a lot of DXers out on the air before, maybe a little bit after the contest. Okay? So the dates, and I'll have this out on the website, October 17th to 31st, we're going to have 6 classes. You just work as many, we call it a sprint. You work as many DX entities and zones as you can. You'll submit just like you do the year-long marathon. No registration is required. I said it's going to be around, and we're going to issue certificates for the 6 highest continents and the highest score in each of those 6 classes that I just showed you. Okay, and details to follow. We're going to do this. We're going to go forward. I'll have all the rules published sometime this summer. But I'm really focusing. I don't know if this is right or not. I'm focusing on everybody, but I would like to get the contesters involved in this also because it's so simple. And you can do the contest, and anything you work in a contest applies to the DX Marathon. Okay, you don't have to choose one or the other. Okay, and I've done a lot of YouTube. One of my favorite, I don't know if I know he's at the show, W1DED, Kevin Thomas. He just upgraded his podcast to what he calls Q5. Check it out sometimes. He's a fantastic interview guy. Tim Duffy had me on his show. Again, my objective on these podcasts is to just try to get the word out and educate people on what the marathon's all about. So I'll close by one of our active participants, and this kind of says it all. This is Paula, K9IR. For me, the marathon is a great incentive to get on the air and work DX, even though I already have all entities confirmed and have too many other fun activities to make a competitive effort. I'm very happy running my own race. See if I can improve my results, add some challenge band countries and digital contacts along the way, turn in a decent effort to support my local DX club score, and keep the station running in top condition. I salute those of you who dedicate the time needed to compete for the awards. Why do you participate in the marathon? Good luck in 2025. That kind of says it all, okay? That concludes my presentation. I know I'm limited on time, but if there are any questions, I'll be willing to field any. Yes? No, a QRP, the question was, can you submit in multiple categories? And the answer to that is no. First of all, QRP, that defines your station, 5 watts or one of the two. So forget about 100 watts. You can't do that. Okay, you're 5 watts. You're in that class. That's true. I didn't mention this because I had a limited amount of time. One of the very important things, I have a remote station in Florida. It's about 50 miles north of me. I used to have a second home in Colorado. I had a station out there. 2 different QTHs. I can't commingle the contacts. I could submit a separate entry for Colorado station. I could submit a separate entry for the Florida station, okay? But I can't commingle the two. So you have to have one TXRX location to participate, okay? You can't be mobile either. Mobile is like maritime mobile. Can't do that. POTA doesn't really chase DX for the most part, so that would eliminate that also. Just have a fixed station. It can be a contest station as long as it's the same station. You can run a different call for a contest station. That's okay. You just, on your submission, you'll name that call as a second call. That's okay. But one station. Anybody else? Yes. Okay, the question was, how do you determine zones? This is a very, very good question. First of all, QRZ is wrong 1% of the time on zone. Why are they wrong? Because they don't assign zones, the operator does. And believe it or not, there's a lot of ham radio operators that don't know what zone they're in. I went to my log, I had about 35,000 in it. AD1C is by far the best database in the world. So I check my log against AD1C whenever I work somebody. I corrected over 3,000 bad zone assignments in my log manually because I don't like a log that's not accurate, okay? I literally changed them. Another thing you'll find in QRZ is because the operator is putting the zone in there, they'll flip the ITU zone and the CQ zone. They'll be backwards. So if you're using QRZ as your database for your logging program, what's going to happen is it's going to pull from that field, and you're going to have a wrong zone, and you're going to get a 1-point deduct. Okay? There also is a website, and write me on this. If you what QRZ does do is the grid squares are very accurate. You take the grid square, you go to this free program, you drop the grid square into the field that it asks you to drop it into, and with about 99.9% certainty, you will get the right zone. Okay? It's a very nice tool. It's actually on the website. I think it's an FAQ in my frequently asked questions. Question? Yes, we just got here a little late. Will your whole slide deck be at your email address? Or? I can just write me an email. Yeah, write me an email. This is being streamed as well, and I don't know. They'll have my slide deck. Spread this around. Anybody that wants to spread this around, spread it around. And if you're in a club and I haven't talked to you yet, write me an email because I love talking to clubs. It's fantastic.